Well, welcome everybody. The last session of post-production world. Yay! Believe me, I know more than anybody. Yay! So this is to be honest with you, this is a totally self-serving session for me, right? As I've seen a lot of you around this week, you know that we're talking about color and workflows and calibration and this and that. And probably about 6 to 8 months ago, I started hearing rumblings of HDR work from my clients, right? And I said, oh, well, I should start researching this. And as many of these fine folks on this panel can attest to, when I start researching something, that usually ends up in me buying something, right? I do that a lot of times, right? And so I actually, over the past couple months, have graded several HDR projects. And I'm still not sure if I'm doing it all right. I'm still not sure if I know what it all means. And I'm still not sure if, what the future of that means. So knowing some very smart people, I'll introduce this whole team in just a second. I thought to myself, wouldn't it be fun and also informative for lots of other people out there to get some experts up here to talk about HDR, what it means now, what it's going to mean in the future, and some of the considerations about HDR. Of course, in our discussion, we can't be exhaustive on every particular issue about HDR, but I hope you walk out at the end of this session going, okay, yep, I get some of the terms, I get some of the key issues, some of the challenges, and some of the things that are facing us. So we're going to talk for about an hour. This is a small group, so we can open up for questions. Along the way, if something really confuses you, just shoot your hand up, and we'll talk about that. But I want to first introduce the entire team here, and the goals of what we're doing. People are like, whoa, we have some slides. Whoa.
Is there a test?
Cool. At the end of the day, I want to basically make sure we cover these kind of things, right? What is HDR? The vocab. HDR, like a lot of things in post and production, is full of vocab. EOTF, PQ, NIT, all these different terms. I hope these guys can help us clarify some of those things, right? I want to talk a little bit about HDR standards and some of the marketing involved in it. This is probably something that is a little confusing, right? We have a lot of different seemingly competing standards, but do they play nice with each other? Do they compete against each other? Where are some meant for the cinema or some meant for just home? I want to clarify and hopefully discuss a little bit of that as well. I want to talk a little bit about HDR displays. After all, HDR, as you guys will agree, is largely driven, or partly driven anyway, by the display and what it can show us. So we'll dive into that. And also calibration of those HDR displays, because calibration, of course, if you've been in one of my classes this week, you know that's very important. Talk a little bit about the future of HDR as much as we can speculate, because it's the future, right? And then, of course, your questions. I'm sure over the course, these are quite opinionated folks, so I'm sure over the course of the discussion, we will have some new questions and new issues that are raised and talked about. But to meet the panelists, you guys know me. I'm Robbie. I've been here all week. Thanks. The first panelist I want to introduce is Katie. Katie is from Light Iron. I am a huge fan of Katie's work. She's actually kind of one of my idols. I'll tap for that on Facebook and Twitter. But she is a literal tour de force of information when it comes to HDR, and I think she's going to have a ton to add to this conversation. She is kind of a senior finishing artist, right? Is your title? Yeah, up at Light Iron in New York. So she's doing a lot of HDR work for Amazon and Netflix. And she's in the front lines of deliverables and figuring out the standards and all that kind of stuff. So she's going to have a lot to add as well. We have Mr. Alexis Van Herkman. You might know Alexis. Alexis is a prolific book author. He also works closely with the Blackmagic design team, helping implement features and documentation and stuff for DaVinci Resolve. He is a colorist, a director, producer. Is there anything you don't really do? I mean, you kind of do everything, right?
I don't act.
You don't act, okay, so, but he's a Renaissance man, let's put it that way. When I have some technical questions, he's one of the first people on my speed dial, maybe behind Ron, that I call to ask. And he's going to have a wealth of information because I think he attacks it slightly different than maybe some of the rest of the panelists, because he does do a little bit of everything, which I think is a big help to our discussion here today. Marco is I can't use the word enough. You guys are all awesome. I first actually encountered Marco at a piano bar a few years ago, right? Started talking about cameras and started talking about editing and color. You may know Marco from his fabulous ebook, Rigging Your Cinema Camera. Marco, how many pages is that book?
The ebook is over 400 pages. The printed book is like just under 300 pages.
So Marco did all that work that you just spent the past 4 days walking around the show floor to figure out which pieces of support gear go together and how they all play together. He kind of figured that part out for you, right? So it's a fantastic ebook. But Marco also has the experience, like Alexis, as a filmmaker, as a DP and shooter, and also because he runs his own shop, post-production production facility. He does it all. Edits, color correction, little audio work as well. So he has another well-rounded perspective on HDR. We have Joel from SpectraCal at the end. Like, Joel, your mind, like, it boggles me, the amount of math that you must have in your mind when it comes to things like calibration, right? And how we handle all of these standards. Joel is the Director of Advanced Research at SpectraCal. If you heard any of my classes this week, and I was bribing you with, or warning you, I should say, with SpectraCal licenses, because thank you guys for donating this to post-production world this year. This is a smart dude, knows everything about, not everything, a lot about the math involved with HDR workflow, LUT workflow, and that kind of stuff. So I want to rely on you, Joel, for some of the technical input about what's going on here behind some of these standards. Then we have Bram from FSI. Bram is a good friend and sort of the captain, if you will, the CEO and general manager of Flanders Scientific. Flanders, as you may know, is a monitor company. They produce high quality production and reference monitors that are used all around the world. And I said, again, he's one of my good friends that knows a lot about this HDR stuff. So we're going to rely on you, Bram. And yes, he's coming out with what's a 10,000 nit monitor next week. Oh, 10,001 nit monitors. That's what it is. That's what it is. Okay. All right. And then finally, we are very honored to have Robert Carroll from Dolby. Thank you, Robert, for coming. Obviously, Dolby is one of the big names that has bounced around when it comes to HDR workflows. Anybody ever heard of Dolby Vision? Oh yeah, right? Okay. So Dolby and the research they've done with the EQF, the PQ curve, and how that was eventually ratified by CineTechGeek. This is kind of, I'm really going to dig deep with Robert because I'm really interested in the role that he sees as Dolby playing in this whole HDR landscape, how some of the standards came about, and that kind of stuff.